Welcome home, everyone. Thank you for joining in on this episode of Welcome Home with the Katinas. Welcome Home is a podcast where I, your host Josh, sit down for a conversation with different people who I admire and discuss whatever's on their mind, and especially focus on life at home in times like this. Wherever you are and however you're listening, thank you for your support, and once again, welcome home. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining in on this week's episode of Welcome Home with the Katinas. I'd like to wish everyone a happy August and also a happy back to school. I've heard that some people are already going back. I know here in Williamson County, my younger cousins who are in school still, they're going back, I think, next week or maybe even the end of this week. So to any kids out there listening, welcome back to your favorite time of the year. And I want to begin the episode like I always do by thanking those of you who support the show, support our ministry here at the Katinas. And for those of you who are part of our community, thank you for being a part. This podcast is just a small part of what we do. And we're glad to be able to share it with you all on wherever you listen to your podcasts, and also on YouTube. If you'd like to see us on video, you can do that at the Katinas. And if you want to learn more about what the Katinas do, what our cousin community is, the best way to do that is to visit thekatinas.com. You'll probably see my dad and his brothers, my uncles on there, and maybe even see me on the website one day. But thank you in advance for doing that. All right, so if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see I have two good-looking young men here at the table with me. They're not generally guests on the show. They're special guests. They've been on the podcast before, I think, Ted at least twice.
Yeah, I think, at least twice.
And then, Dan, have you been on twice?
I've been on twice.
Okay,
yeah.
So you guys are veterans of the show, but it's your first time being here in this environment. At least on the show. I know you guys spend a lot of time at this house, but I wanted to give you guys an opportunity real quick for maybe people who are new to the show. Just introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what your connection is to the Katinas.
I'll go first. My name is Daniel Thompson. I'm 27. I'm from a little city outside of Huntington Beach, California called Westminster. I lived there for most of my life, and then back in 2019, I moved here to Franklin to intern with Love Squared, and that was 4 years ago, actually.
Wow.
That's crazy, yeah. Over the past 4 years, I've gone from interning with Love Squared to being on staff, and now this past October, I think that was 10 months ago.
Yeah.
I got married, met a girl, so I'm pretty much in Tennessee for good.
Yeah. Shout out to Nicole.
Yeah, shout out to Nicole. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I've got for my intro.
Yeah, and as you said earlier, I'm Tere. Tere is my nickname. My whole name's Terenuku. I'm from American Samoa. I've been here 3 years now. And just like Dan, I started off as an intern, but instead I got drafted by the Katinas instead of Love Squared. And been riding ever since. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And we're all part of the same team. So I'm glad that it's just us three here today and not the uncles, because I think a lot of people probably see, obviously, what the uncles do. They're kind of on there. You see their faces a lot, and but it takes a lot to do what they do. Their ministry is more than just the five of them. There's a lot of people involved that work really hard to make what they do happen, and two of them are you guys. And I thought it was appropriate. I'm glad that we're here in this house, because what a lot of people probably don't know is that, well, they know that I work for the Katinas, but the way I spend Monday through Friday, my mornings are here at this table, and often I'll get here and the only other person here is you today.
Yeah, dude. No, it's funny. I'll wake up and I'll be chilling in my room, and all of a sudden I'll just hear the door open and I'll be like, oh, Josh is here.
Yeah. So you live here in this house?
Yes.
Yeah.
I lived right in the corner room of the house.
We may have talked about this on past episodes, but I want to ask you again, is it weird living in the same place that you work?
Yes. but it's gotten a lot more comfortable now, to the point where I think we did talk about this on one of the other episodes, where like I used to split my room and the office with like work and like leisure.
Yeah.
But it's gotten more to a point where it's just like, if I need to work, then I just need to work. And when I'm not working, then I can do what I want.
Yeah.
Instead of like having spaces, it's more of just like times.
Let me ask you this for the people listening, because I was talking about there's a lot that goes on with the Katinas. Could you guys tell me kind of what your role is on a day-to-day basis, what you're doing for the Katinas or Love Squared?
Yeah. So I'm like, I work production. I'm a man with many names. I kind of just do any tech work that needs to be done here at the office. If Joey's not around, then I'm there to help pick up the slack.
Joey's another guy who's a part of the team.
Shout out Joey.
Shout out Joey.
Joey's
Casora.
the best. But yeah, I'm pretty much just the tech guy.
Cool.
Yeah, I work more with Love Squared, and weekly I meet with high school kids at the actually local high school right across the street, Franklin.
Yep.
And I meet with them for a Bible study Thursday night. So if Thursday night comes and you guys happen to remember, just keep us in your prayers. But Wednesday mornings we have meetings at this very table right here every Wednesday. And then my main other responsibility for Love Squared is if you are a Love Squared partner and you've ever had to contact us, I am most likely the person
You're
that
the
you've
guy.
emailed or called and talked to. So those are like the three main things that I do.
Awesome. Well, I thought it would be appropriate today, since school is coming back and our audience, they get to hear all kinds of stories and learn a lot about my dad and my uncles. I would love to kind of get to know you guys a little bit better. And so I want to go take you guys back to your school days. And I want to ask you specifically high school, because I feel like you can learn a lot about a person by asking this, but I want to know what kind of person, what kind of student were you? Like, who were you in high school? Not just academically, but also like socially. What were you?
Josh, I think we graduated the same year.
14?
Yeah, 2014. Yep. Okay, yeah. So
Your 10 years coming up.
I
bro.
know that's so. I wanted to go first because this is pretty far from my mind. But
Y'all are old.
in high school, I played two sports for most of it, just basketball and football, and then I did track and volleyball my senior year. So I was like, I think at the time I would hate to label myself as this, but now looking back, I was pretty much a typical jock.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah,
dude.
just like
the world needs jocks, bro.
I was just going to school to play sports, and academically, I wasn't a terrible student, but I wasn't a great student. My parents may not love me saying this, but C's get degrees, so so it was C's and B's all the way through high school. But socially, I kind of hung around. It was weird. My high school, I don't know if you guys was like this, but like the football team, it was like cliquey.
Yeah,
cliquey.
I think that's typical.
Okay, cool. And
Yeah.
like because I feel like because I just played multiple sports, I was in a couple different cliques. The group that I did try to get in with that I didn't fit in with, but they were like, I thought they were really cool, was like the theater kids. I thought those guys were like awesome.
Nice.
And mainly I think it was a part of like putting yourself out there to be on stage and like embarrass yourself or do something like that. But that was pretty much jock-ish, decent grades, pretty open to being in whatever clique would have me.
Did you go to public school in high
I
school?
did go to public
Okay,
school.
yeah.
The school that I went to had, when I was there, had 2,700 kids.
Okay.
And we graduated with like 700
Wow,
kids. And
that's big.
It was a long graduation.
I bet.
Yeah.
Golly. As far as me, I played just football. We weren't really allowed to play any other sports if we played football because it was a year-round thing. I did my senior year. I was unfortunately unable to play football because I had some health issues.
Okay.
But I ended up going in a musical. And
Oh.
so when you were talking about theater kids, I was like, I was a theater kid.
I would have never known that, bro.
Yeah.
Were you on stage acting? And
Yeah.
Oh, what was the musical?
The Sound of Music.
Okay, who were you?
I was the guy that sings that "You Are 16."
Okay.
Yeah, I was.
Awesome.
I cannot see that. That's awesome.
It was a while ago.
Did you have to like dye your hair for that?
No, but
Okay.
never mind.
It was. I mean, if you know the Sound of Music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, none of us had to dye our hair. We did have like a bunch of costumes and like makeup,
yeah.
but it wasn't like
Yeah.
super expensive on the production. But yeah, I played football. I was in a musical. As far as like academics, I mean, I got mostly like A's and B's. There was like a couple C's, but like I'd get in trouble if I got C's and stuff. So as far as like cliques, I didn't really ever have a clique. I don't know if that's weird. I kind of just like wandered from group to group and just like hung out with everybody. Yeah.
And you went to high school in Samoa, right?
Yes, sir. I went to Tafuna High School.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, like you moved to Samoa. How old were you?
I think I was 12. I was 11 or 12.
Okay, so middle school age.
I had 5 weeks left of 8th grade when I moved.
Okay, right. So you kind of moved there and then basically started high school.
Yeah.
So were you kind of like the new kid, like your freshman year? What was that like for you?
It was nice because I did have like the 5 weeks in 8th grade where I like met people.
Sure.
So when I went to high school, at least I knew like a handful of kids. But then everybody else was like, I mean, because when you go to high school, like different schools merge. So there's like kids meeting other kids for the first time. But also because I'm a quarter Caucasian, everybody looks at you weird because of that as well.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like there was a barrier, but there wasn't a barrier.
Yeah.
And like people were friendly, but some people just didn't like me. But there's nothing much I could really do about it.
I can kind of relate to being the new kid because what was it? Fifth, sixth, and seventh grade, I was homeschooled. And then I went back to public school in 8th grade with some of the kids that I went to like elementary school with, but also new kids. So like my 8th grade year, I was the new kid in school. And so I remember kind of the social awkwardness that I had to go through and just being 13 years old, being insecure and having to meet a bunch of other 13-year-olds who 13-year-olds can be kind of mean.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Especially when they speak a language that you don't speak.
Yeah.
Funny. Josh, why were you homeschooled? I didn't know you were homeschooled.
So I went to public school 1st through 4th grade. And then in 5th grade, it was at a time where my dad was touring. It was probably the most touring he was doing, like at least in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And the way their schedule works, and it's the same today, is that they usually would be home during the week and then travel on the weekends, right? And so the way that worked out, it was like I was not seeing my dad hardly at all because I'd be at school during the week, but then on the weekend when I'm home, he's out of town.
Right.
And so same for Eli. So my parents decided that my dad really wanted to see me and Eli more, and so they decided to homeschool us so that the main reason was so that we could just spend more time with our dad, honestly. Awesome. And so
did you guys travel with them? Is that the tour bus days?
Yes. So I have a lot of memories of that time in my life. We were traveling on the road with them. One of my favorite memories from that was we were homeschooled, so my teacher was my mom. And she decided, my mom was very gracious looking back on it, like dealing with me and Eli, only being our mom, but also our teacher. But she decided we needed to have a field trip. So it worked out that my dad and uncles were going on a trip to sing in Washington, D.C. And so they took the bus. So me and Eli and my mom all got on the bus and we had our field trip to DC. And I'm actually remembering this now, dude. Your family was in Baltimore at the time.
I was about to say, if you guys went to DC, funny. You probably stopped by and saw us.
Yeah, I remember your dad, he met up with us and he kind of showed us around. I couldn't be remembering this wrong, but I feel like your dad had connections or knew somebody who was like associated with the Secret Service.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is really cool. Not a lot of people get to do this. I got to go your dad's, I don't know if it's his friend, or I don't know who it is. We won't put him on blast. But he showed us. He took us to like this garage where they kept all the presidential motorcade cars.
Oh, wow.
So I got to see the cars that the president traveled in, and
That
like
is so
I saw
cool.
like the glass was like literally this thick,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
the tire. He showed us all the cool stuff, and then I remember he showed us to the Secret Services had dogs like what are they called? German Shepherd dogs.
the canines.
Yeah, the canines. And they kind of did a demonstration of like, this is how they can find this stuff, and this is the command to make them attack, and
That's
all that
crazy.
stuff. So yeah, that's funny. I totally forgot that your dad was there, because you guys your family was in Baltimore at that time, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's funny because when you mentioned going to DC, I was like, there's like a 90% chance someone in my family went to go see them.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I also, another story with your dad, because didn't your dad used to work for Southwest
Yeah.
at one point? Okay, so the very first time I ever flew on a plane by myself, I think I was 10 years old, maybe even younger. And it was during the homeschooling time of my life, but I had school, and then for the weekend, like as a treat, my parents flew me out to meet up with my dad and his brothers who were in Baltimore, or the Baltimore area. And I was flying by myself, and the way we worked it out was I flew from Nashville. I think I had a layover in like Cleveland, and then flew into Baltimore, and your dad was literally working. So he just waited at the gate and picked me up from my first flight.
That's
on my own.
sick.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
I never knew that story.
Yeah, I remember that clearly.
Yeah.
I remember it because when you're like young, I don't know if you guys ever flew by yourselves when you were a kid, but when you're young, they basically like assign you like a flight attendant who's kind of like your guardian on the plane. And so it was her job to like make sure I got to where I was supposed to go when I got off of the plane. And we land in Baltimore, and this flight attendant, she kind of walks me off of the plane, and I'm just waiting at the gate, and your dad was not there. Like he was late. And so this lady was the flight attendant was, we probably waited for like 10, 15 minutes, and she, I guess, had somewhere to go. So she just found like the person who was working at the gate. Was like, can you watch this boy? Someone's coming to get him. And I was sort of getting nervous. It's like, I hope my uncle remembered. But he showed up eventually, and everything went
What a
well.
memory.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Considering that's the man that always stressed being on time.
He was, in his defense, he was working
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So I'm sure there was more important things that he was dealing with. But, well, staying on the subject of school, and I think, Dan, you're probably a good guy to ask this question, because we're coming up on 10 years. Next year is going to be our 10 years since we graduated high school, which is weird to think about. But I wanted to ask you, because you spent a lot of time with high schoolers.
Yes.
Definitely more time than I do spending with high schoolers. I want to ask you, like, as you see young people today who are 10 years or more younger than you now, what are the similarities you see with like their experience in high school to yours, and if any, what are the differences?
Yeah. It's a good question. I think one of the biggest similarities, almost messed up that word, similarities, is in what like Love Squared is all about. It's like all about leadership. And one of the biggest similarities is that when I was graduating high school and now, and I'm sure like, 10 years from now, there's always going to be kids that are like great leaders but haven't been reached, and they haven't been like encouraged to lead others or lead the people around them, so they don't know. Another similarity I noticed this a lot is the pressure to like be really good at one thing. And that's really hard, especially when you feel like you're because sometimes it can be like a goal that like is almost unreachable. One of the biggest differences that like makes that pressure to be really good at one thing even harder is when we were going to high school, social media was still at like the the baby. Like Snapchat was still very.
We were all
new.
learning how to use it.
Yeah.
Still.
MySpace and Facebook.
We were a little after MySpace,
Yeah.
but like Twitter wasn't very big, Instagram wasn't very big. It was like catching its uptick.
Nothing like what it is today.
Yeah, now
Yeah.
it's like it's almost like every kid is like on blast on how good they're living their life
so
or
interesting.
doing things. So
Yeah.
those would be like the couple biggest and same similarities
Yeah.
and differences.
I think if kids today saw what we were posting on Instagram and Twitter when we were in high school, they'd be like, "You guys are weird."
I actually
'Cause-
just saw a meme. Do you remember the Kanye glasses with the
Oh yeah, dude,
yeah.
I had
the
them.
shutters?
I had them.
did too.
Yeah.
I just saw a meme of like, I can't believe this is what you guys wore back in the day.
Dude, if you scroll back far enough on my Facebook, that was a picture of me wearing a lime
shutters.
green pair of those
Yeah.
things. My profile picture. That was it, bro.
I think I have a same picture, but with the blue ones.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, dude, I like. Obviously, when you're at that age, you're really starting to explore what it means to be an individual. Like you're finding your identity, and I think that's a natural part of being a young teen. But now, like it seems to me, like I see it even in my younger cousins. A huge part of their identity is what their Instagram feed looks like, or like what their TikTok.
Yeah.
And I guess if it wasn't social media, it would probably be something
It
else.
would be something else. Yeah.
But that's such a unique thing to me.
Yeah.
Like I remember I had social media when I was their age, but it wasn't nearly as big of a part of like
Yep.
what my social status was or like
Yeah.
my image. Like it just kind of was, we were all just learning how to use it.
Yeah.
We really didn't understand even the power of
Yeah,
social media
right.
at that point. And so when I see my younger cousins and they are, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, they're really good at social media.
Yeah.
Like
It's funny you say that. One of the kids that I meet with in our group followed me on Instagram like halfway through the last school year. And he came to group and he was like, dude, you only have like 400 followers. I
Yeah.
was like, what? That like stuck with me because I was like, what? Am I supposed to have more?
Yeah.
Like, I'm a 27-year-old guy. I don't, yeah.
Hurt with 400.
I know. I was like, whoa.
that is such a weird pressure though to have, like
Yeah.
that the number of people following you is like, that is a valid thing to judge somebody on.
Right.
Like it's such a unique thing. Like
Yeah.
having to impress people 400 followers to me, if you're a high school kid and you have 400 followers, I'm like, that makes sense
lot.
to me.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
do you know more than 400
Right.
people?
Right.
Yeah. But I know that there's like, and you guys know this, there's 15, 16-year-olds that have literally millions of people that
Yeah.
follow them, that's kind of weird in itself. But like, I don't know. I'm glad that I don't think I was that worried about how many people were following me or how many likes I was getting. And not to say that I'm better than anyone. I'm sure if I was a
Same.
15-year-old today, that probably would be
yeah,
important to
me
me.
too.
Yeah.
But
It's funny because so I graduated 2018. I don't know if I said that earlier.
okay.
But like right around 2017, 2018, my senior year, everybody was like starting to get worried about like, oh, how many people do you have on Snapchat?
Yeah.
How many followers do you have? And that was like kind of what it's like who was determined as like the cool people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which was like kind of weird to me because like usually it was just like the athletes were the cool people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, somebody's got 100 more followers than somebody, and I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys because one thing that we know now about social media is that it's curated to like feed you the kind of content that it thinks that you're going to be interested in. And I maybe a month or two ago, I asked my wife, I said, honey, what do you think about Andrew Tate?
Oh.
Do you guys know who Andrew
Yeah.
Tate is? She's never heard of him.
Huh?
She never heard
That
of him.
doesn't surprise me. Nicole hasn't either.
And there's probably people that are watching or listening, they've never heard of him. But I think he is his content, and there's a lot of other content creators like him that are targeting specifically young men, men even younger than us, honestly, like high school age men.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, we're in our 20s, I think. But I was baffled. I was like, I cannot believe my wife has never heard of Andrew Tate, because I thought he was like the most famous person on the
me
internet,
too.
right?
Right.
Yeah, but it kind of makes sense to me. Like, why would she want to hear
Right.
what he has to
Right.
say?
Yeah, that makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
the things.
But
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, you guys don't have to. We don't have to get too deep into it if you don't want to. But like, what are your guys' thoughts on like his overall message and like that kind of side of social media? Because do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were about to ask what's showing up on our feed.
Yeah.
I was like,
No. Well, maybe it says something about me that I get a lot of Andrew Tate
yeah.
stuff, bro.
I get a
And-
couple things.
I'll get a lot of like reposts of Andrew
Yeah.
Tate.
Uh-huh.
And then like it'll be like Subway Surfer underneath him or something.
Maybe I should explain who Andrew Tate is. If
That'll probably
because
help.
we
That'd
probably
probably
don't.
help.
There's people who are listening. Who is that? He's a guy who I would say like maybe last year, maybe a little earlier than last year, he started going viral on like TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. He's a very controversial figure because he's like, they call him part of like Red Pill Twitter, Red Pill social media. And essentially what his content is like, it's sharing with young men like his philosophy on how to be like an alpha. Yeah, like how to get rich, how to get girls to throw themselves at you.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff that really resonates with teenage boys.
Yeah.
and
Very true.
and I think the thing about Andrew Tate is that, this is my opinion, he says a lot of absurd things, and you guys you can disagree with me, but there's a lot of things in there too that I agree with, if I'm being honest, and some of it's kind of ugly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Maybe I'm giving him too much press right now, but I don't know. He says stuff that's way out there. Like some people will call it sexist or misogynistic or hateful, but then he sprinkles in some truth here and there too.
Yeah.
He's really big on like traditional values, but
Patriarchy.
yeah. But he also, what I see, like, he doesn't always live out like traditional values.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you guys, what do you think about that? And I'm curious, Dan. Sorry, Ted. I'm
No,
curious
you're good.
about you too. But I wonder if you know any guys that are like any
I know.
Love Square guys that are
Love
like
Square?
into Andrew Tate stuff. Just young kids.
I don't know. Actually, that's if there are, that it doesn't get brought up around me, which I'm okay with. Oh yes, there is one.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not gonna say his name, but he's definitely like, I think the way he carries himself, you can tell. Ted just kind of reminded me of him. But I don't like, I'm gonna be honest. Most of the things I see are like of his are like the very controversial things that people are replying to. It's not like his original video.
Okay.
So I see all the bad stuff, and all the stuff that I see, I'm like, yo, this guy is not it.
Yeah, no,
But
he's out there.
Yeah. But maybe you have more of an opinion or whatever.
I think I'd probably side with Josh. I think he has said, and he does say like a lot of like generally out of pocket stuff or like stuff that he shouldn't be saying. But then there is like a little bit of truth behind like what he's saying, or like it's just the way he says it. It like does not come across well. But and not everything he says is like true, but sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm just like, he has a point.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think whether or not you agree with what he says, I do think there's something to be learned that one of the guys who's like one of the most recognizable names on like meme culture in the internet right now is somebody who his message is for young men. I think when you think of like social media, like the stereotype is like the girls who like post their cute little pictures and they have the flowers and all that. Like you think of like a girl who's obsessed with what her Instagram is, or at least that's what I do.
Yeah.
But I think we're also missing that young men they want to be spoken to just as
Right.
much.
It's just as important.
And it's just as important. And Andrew Tate is striking a chord that I think has been waiting to be struck for a long time.
Yeah.
And I just think about like young teenage boys. I think the fact that a guy like Andrew Tate has such a large platform, it's a symptom of the fact that there's a lot of young men out there who don't have strong role models.
Yeah,
who don't have someone who they look to as an example or for wisdom. And so it totally makes sense to me that a guy who is speaking to them and he's successful, air quotes, and he's rich, he's famous, he's got beautiful women all around him. It totally makes sense to me that young men are gravitating to that because they don't see, sadly, a lot of examples of like strong men in their lives right now.
I think that goes back a little bit to what I was talking about, how like one of the biggest similarities between when we were in high school and now is like there's still a lot of leaders out there that like haven't been encouraged to lead, and honestly in that same sense are like so impressionable that like when someone as like polarizing as Andrew Tate or I won't say the other guy's name, but Andrew Tate comes up, it's like, oh yeah, that like I agree with that because that's a strong dude. Like yeah, he believes what he says, stuff like that.
There's a whole branch of content creators now, like
that are like that
are basically sharing that same message, like be an alpha, be strong, and it's like that's if you want to go viral on like social media right now, that's a quick way to do it. Is post something that's like a little controversial, targeted towards young men, and you'll blow up quick.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Is he a boxer or something?
Kickboxer.
Oh, he's a kickboxer.
He's a kickboxer. Yeah.
He was like a world champion kickboxer at one point, and then something happened. I can't remember exactly.
Have you guys? Has Eli told you guys about his newest venture? Newest thing that he's like, I guess you call it a hobby, but not golf.
Is he kickboxing?
Not close. He joined the jiu-jitsu gym.
Oh, that is scary.
He didn't tell you guys this?
No, but I would hate to find. I would hate to find out.
Have you guys ever done anything like that?
I did. Yeah.
You did jiu-jitsu?
I did karate.
Okay.
My little Mikey, actually, my little brother does jiu-jitsu.
Oh, really?
Dude, that stuff is dangerous.
I've never.
Eli, I'll have to have him on soon, but he was telling me stories. He's like been a part of this jiu-jitsu gym for like a month now.
Is it Gracie Barra?
No, it's not. It's actually a guy who I graduated from high school with him. He's like, he owns the gym here. It's near Nashville. He's like a black belt, a jiu-jitsu black belt, and I don't know that much about it, but the stories Eli tells me, like, you guys know Eli. He's like a strong dude.
Yeah, that's why I said that's kind of scary.
Dude, I
can't imagine him throwing people around.
Yeah.
Bro, he's not throwing people around. Like, he's getting thrown around, which is amazing to think about. But, he's saying, like, it's one of the hardest things he's ever done.
Yeah, that stuff is intense. Like, I won't get into
that. I feel like especially jiu-jitsu, though.
Yeah.
I think, isn't that one of, like, the harder, like, martial arts?
I don't know.
I don't know about harder. I think I'm not an expert, so everything I'm saying could be totally wrong. But from what I've heard is that, like, jiu-jitsu is one of the, like, jiu-jitsu would work in the streets, if that makes sense. Like, because I took Taekwondo when I was a kid. Not that I get into street fights, but if I did get in a street fight, I'm not using any of my Taekwondo stuff.
Right.
I'm not throwing a back kick but I think jiu-jitsu, like, it's pretty applicable to any kind of like combat situation. Like, because like you even see it in, I don't know how into the UFC you guys are, but oftentimes, like, it's the guys who are really strong jiu-jitsu fighters. They're hard to beat. Like, the common matchup is like the jiu-jitsu guy versus the elite striker. Because there's no striking in jiu-jitsu. It's all grappling and holding and stuff. But those fights are
tap outs or no?
No.
What's that?
Submissions. Is that what they're called in?
Yeah. So
Grappling?
it's all
That's what they
about
go for,
joint locks and
Yeah.
or chokes,
Yeah.
choke holds and stuff like that. Those are the fights that are like really fun to watch because typically the way it goes is if the jiu-jitsu guy can get a hold of the striker, it's only a matter of time before they finish it.
Yeah.
But
So basically, you're saying we have like a couple more weeks to mess around with Eli before he
Yeah,
gets
I know.
really good at grappling.
So what I'm hearing is I need to go learn how to box.
are you guys? Did you guys grow up watching boxing or UFC?
I wasn't allowed.
No,
No?
it was all basketball and football.
Okay.
Yeah, I was
That's
only
funny.
allowed to watch football and basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did watch wrestling
Like
back when like John Cena was like new, like
that's
WWE.
funny. I wasn't allowed to watch that. Stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, me either. Except I don't know. I was allowed to watch Rakishi.
Oh gosh,
I have no idea what that is.
He was like the
because he's,
worst
like,
one to watch.
My quote unquote uncle. Somehow.
Is he a wrestler?
He's
Yeah.
someone. Yeah.
Okay, a WWE guy.
Yeah.
I
Is
think
he
he's
still doing
related
it?
To, no, he's related.
No,
I think
he's
he's related
not.
to the
Roman
Usos,
Reigns?
right?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
the Uso brothers are his kids.
Yeah.
Actually.
I don't
They're
know.
called the Uso brothers.
Yeah. Are you not into? Are you not like?
No,
at
I've
all?
heard of those
Oh,
guys.
yeah,
I didn't know
yeah.
they're called the Uso brothers.
Yeah,
Usos.
which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because it just means brother.
The brother brothers. That's funny.
It's like the chai tea in Spider Man.
It's funny.
That's
Chai
funny,
tea
dude.
literally means TT.
So you guys, I have memories growing up. My dad and my uncles were real big boxing fans growing up. So pretty young age, like one of my earliest memories ever actually was we lived up in Antioch at the time, going to Uncle Jesse and Uncle James's apartment because Mike Tyson was fighting Lennox Lewis. And I was probably like 3 or 4 years old, but I got to watch the
That must
fight.
have been a while ago.
Dude,
yeah.
that was my first fight I got
That's
to watch,
awesome.
and I was.
You remember that?
I mean, I just remember
Like the
getting to go,
environment.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that I've been a boxing fan ever since.
That's
but
awesome.
so you guys grew up watching basketball and football.
Yeah, WWE a little bit.
Who are your guys' teams?
Oh, I'm a Laker fan. So growing up, I have to tell this every time. Noah, actually, our new intern, was asking me who my favorite NFL team is, and growing up, I was a Charger fan because when I started watching, LaDainian Tomlinson was at the top of the game, and then there was like a span of years where we would do really well in the season, and Philip Rivers would absolutely blow it for us in the playoffs, and I was like, dude, I cannot support a team that this guy's on. And so when I finally decided to become a free agent fan, I was like, who's good around the league? And Andrew Luck was at the top, near the top. He was still getting sacked a lot, but I was like, dude, the Colts. I'm gonna be a Colts fan. The following year, Andrew Luck retires.
Yeah.
Philip Rivers comes in, and I was like, no,
I didn't even
again.
think about
You
that.
gotta be
I totally
kidding me.
forgot Rivers played for the Colts.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna be a fan of the game.
Yeah, I'm a Lakers fan as well, but for NFL, I used to be a Raiders fan when I was younger, and then I got to an age where I like understood football, and I was like, dude, the Raiders suck. I'm gonna pick my own team, and I decided to pick the Baltimore Ravens because I lived in Baltimore.
Nice.
Your parents are gonna give you a call after they hear this.
Go ahead. But just kidding, Mom and Dad, I love you. But after I picked the Ravens, I was just like, dude, the Ravens are not doing good either. And it got to a point where I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to watch games and make fun of the Raiders.
Okay. That's funny. So I hate the Ravens. I'm a Steeler fan.
yeah.
So I grew up, when I was a kid, like, that was the rivalry with
Yeah.
Steelers Ravens. It's still the rivalry for Steeler fans,
Yeah.
but
I think Ravens fans
both
as well.
both the Steelers and Ravens were good when I was
Is that
like a young fan.
Joe Flacco?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Flack.
Ray
I mean, really, it
Lewis.
was Ray Lewis and
Yeah.
every.
Well, but yeah,
but
quarterbacks are easier
right.
for me to remember.
So I grew up. Those were like my favorite games.
Yeah.
Well, depending on how the Steelers did,
Right.
Like those were the games I really looked forward
Yeah.
to growing up was Steelers Ravens games.
Those games were crazy.
Now the Steelers haven't been like that relevant for a while now, and the Ravens are kind of they're like a playoff team, but
Yeah.
I don't think they're really contenders. So
Their new coach might be good for them. I think he's an OC.
who
The guy he came. I can't remember
Harbaugh's
his
still
name.
the guy there, though, right?
Yeah, but they got a new like offensive coordinator
Okay.
or something, or like a quarterbacks coach that plays a system like a lot similar to, or runs a system a lot similar to what Lamar Jackson was doing in college.
And at Louisville?
Yeah,
Okay.
which like typically doesn't work for long in the NFL, but
Right.
typically you don't have Lamar Jackson
Yeah, I think
getting snaps.
I
so.
feel like NFL offenses, they're willing to take a lot more risks on what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because I think just in general, quarterbacks are getting way better. Like, and they're
agree
just
with that.
changing.
Yeah.
They're more athletic now, and the typical what you used to think was like a good NFL quarterback, it's whatever that picture is in your mind.
Yeah.
For me, it was like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. Those were like the guys.
Big Ben, yeah.
You don't see like a lot of guys like quarterbacks like that in the NFL now.
I think
who
like,
just stand back there and throw the ball.
I feel like Mac Jones is like one of the only ones that is still kind of built that way. And even he like runs a little bit more.
I mean, and then Mac Jones is not like he's not a top 10 guy.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Like is there a top 10 quarterback in the league that is not mobile? I mean, is there?
No.
Like maybe Aaron Rodgers, but even he can like scramble.
Yeah.
But he's not going to beat you with your legs. But I don't even know if you'd say he's top 10. Would you say Rodgers is still top 10 quarterback?
I think you could. I think he could be in the 10. Like I wouldn't be upset if somebody said, "Yeah, Rodgers is like 9 or 10." I'm like, all right, cool. He's not 8 or above. I don't think. Hold on.
Well, let's see. Let's see if we can name
is-
10 quarterbacks better than Aaron Rodgers.
All right, Mahomes. Gotta start there. Burrow. This one might be. Is this in order?
No, just any 10.
Josh Allen.
Yeah.
This might be debatable, but Justin Herbert.
I would take Herbert
Yeah,
over Rodgers.
I was saying because I didn't know if you guys would debate that, but
No, I like Herbert.
I would take Herbie. Who else? Oh, dude, Deshaun Watson actually is still.
I'm not taking that one.
Okay.
I haven't seen it, bro. Like,
But I mean,
aside
even
from
when
his
he
off
was-
the field stuff, like
Yeah.
he hasn't played. Like, I know he played last year, but
Yes,
I got to
okay.
see it. I'm not
Okay.
taking. I'm not accepting Deshaun
Okay.
Watson.
Not putting Deshaun. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Lamar, who we just talked about. Are we putting Tua up there from last year?
I'm not taking Tua over Rodgers yet.
Not
I
over
don't-
it.
All right. Whatever.
But you can, if you think, we'll say
No.
Tua. Would you
Yeah,
say like Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts is
Yeah.
definitely up there. I can't believe I forgot him. You know who I don't like a lot, and I don't think he's better than Rodgers, but he puts up a lot of good stats, is Kirk Cousins.
I think Kurt's one of the most slept on quarterbacks in the league.
I think Kirk Cousins is in there.
I don't know if I can. I'm not taking Kirk Cousins over Rodgers.
Over Aaron?
No, I'm not. I still like
Are we basing
Wait,
off
how-
last year?
like who they are today.
Right, but like previously, like performance from last year.
I mean, yeah. I'm just thinking like
Yeah.
if I'm going to field a team literally today, August 1st,
Okay. Yeah.
and to win one game, would I take this guy? I think I'd still take Rodgers. I don't know. I'm probably. I just like Aaron Rodgers' game, but
I think that's what is that? 6 or
that's
7?
7 or 8.
Okay, so
Yeah.
So right
you could
around
put-
there.
I would
He's
put
probably
Rodgers there. Yeah, I
Rodgers
guess
is
8
somewhere in there. Russell Wilson. Who would you take?
Oh yeah, I would take Russell Wilson.
You still take Russell
I would
Wilson
still take
over
Russell
over
Wilson.
Rodgers?
Yeah.
I don't think I would.
I would think he was in a
Yeah,
bad.
I don't
I think
think
he
I
was in
would
a bad
either.
situation. I still believe. Let's ride, Bronco Nation.
Do people
kidding.
ever tell you you look like him?
People tell me that. All yeah. When I was I went to school in Wisconsin in Milwaukee.
Oh, I
where
didn't
he
know
had
that.
like his best years as a college player.
Okay.
And they like, I swear, half the people at that school didn't know my actual name. They all just called me Russ.
Calls you Russ.
Yeah, and I
That's
was
funny.
like, oh, thanks. My name's Daniel, but thanks.
Well, thanks for talking football with me,
Yeah,
guys.
sorry.
We could. I know we could talk about that for a while,
Yeah.
but I want to ask you, Ted, a question. And if you don't want to talk about this, it's fine. But I do know that there's somewhat in the works of you, maybe going back to Samoa soon.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I think by the time this podcast comes out, I'll have had my meeting with the uncles.
Okay. Well, let me say this. So your family is still in Samoa, right?
Yes. Everyone except my eldest sister. She's in
Okay.
Vegas still.
And you've been here in Tennessee now for 3 years?
Yes.
Yeah, because you came during the pandemic.
Yeah, I came July of 2020.
Yeah, so it's literally been three
Yeah.
3 years. What do you miss the most about home?
Probably just my family.
Yeah.
Whenever they get to come out, or like whenever I get to go down to visit, it's always like super relieving of just like all the stress and all like the I don't want to say loneliness, because like I'm not lonely out here.
Mhm.
I have like 50 family members out here.
Yeah.
But it's like just like the like reconnecting with that, like my direct family is
Sure.
just like always relaxing, and like it's like peaceful in a way.
Yeah.
So definitely my family. And if I wasn't allowed to say family, because I feel like that's a default answer, probably say food.
The food? Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, sorry, what?
Bro,
What do you eat out there that you can't get out here?
you got balsamic and taro right here?
Someone can make it.
No. Who's growing taro out here?
Okay, you're right. We can move on.
No, I don't eat a lot of Samoan food here.
Oh yeah, but I love Samoan or certain Samoan food.
Yeah.
I've kind of ever since I've been in Tennessee though, I've kind of like grown away from certain Samoan foods because they're like really unhealthy.
Yeah.
So
That hot
it's gonna
chicken.
be that turkey tail.
I was gonna ask turkey tail. Yeah.
I used to eat turkey tail like at least 3 times a week, and you should be eating
my
that like
goodness.
once a month.
Yeah.
It's just like a piece of chicken that's just straight fat.
Oh yeah, I know. What it
Yeah,
is.
it's
Can't- yeah.
not fun.
Let me ask you this: as you look back on the last 3 years of your life, as I look back on it, I feel like I've seen a lot of growth. I feel like you've changed a lot since you first moved here. But I'd like to ask you, like, when you think about it, is there anything that you see in your life as like who you are that you're like, oh yeah, I've grown here, or this has changed about me in the last 3 years?
Yeah. If you would have asked me this question maybe a month ago, I wouldn't have been able to answer it. But I've been talking to a lot of people about just whether the decision of going back is like right or not. And I was actually talking to Jeremy Williams. He works with Love Squared, and we were just talking, and I was like, yeah, I just don't know if I'm ready. And he was like, okay, what would have to happen to make you ready? And in my head, I was just kind of going through like, all right, what have I not learned yet? And I was just like, well, I've learned all the production stuff I wanted to learn. I've learned how to do outreach with high school kids. I've learned how to just love and minister to people, and how just to be part of like a spiritual family and just be part of a community, and how to love and guide and lead and just be with people. And I was just thinking to myself, like, dude, if I already learned all this, then there's not much for me. There's not much more for me to learn that would make me like ready to go down.
Wow.
And but yeah, sorry. Long story short, yeah, I just feel like a lot of the growth was just maturity, just learning how to be part of community, how to be a part of a family, and just how to love God, love people, and lead well.
Yeah, bro. I say this about you and you, Dan. Like, it's just being. It's weird. I feel like I have a unique perspective because I grew up in my family, obviously, and I grew up around the ministry, and there have been a lot of great people who have come in and out of the ministry and worked, but I got to see. I'm honored to say that I got to see like your guys' first day. Basically, I remember one of the first times I saw you was when Eli and Amelia got engaged, and I remember. Oh yeah, that's right. Dan. He's gonna be the new Love Squared intern.
Yeah.
And then I remember you, Teddy. It was like a trick to get you onto the flight out of Samoa because it was during the pandemic. But I remember it was I guess July 2020, and I was at the pickleball courts, and Teddy was just there. I was like, oh, how did he get here?
I think I pulled up to the pickleball court in like an EA and flip flops too.
Yeah. Well, 3 years for you, Teddy. 4 years more. I've seen so much growth in your guys' lives, and
Thanks.
I'm really proud to say that you guys are a part of my family and a part of our ministry and being a part of the team, but also calling you guys my cousins. Like, it's such a blessing to me, and I'm so glad that I got to have just you two here for the podcast, because I think our cousins and our community, they probably don't know how much of a blessing you guys are to what we do here with the Katinas. So thank you guys.
Dude, thank you. I think it makes it easy. Like you were talking about growth, it just makes it easy to grow in the like culture, in the Samoan culture. There's a lot of the like, if I'm older than you, you listen to what I say no matter what. And I think your parents and you got Josh, you and Eli, the Katinas and Love Squared culture did a good job of like, no, that's not how we do things here. Like, you're gonna grow, and it's not gonna be because I'm like limiting you what you can do. It's gonna be because like we're gonna walk with you and explore. And I just want to say thank you to you and your and the Katinas and Jeremy and the Williams family for like honestly providing that space for us to be able to do that. Because I don't know about you, Tedda, but I probably wouldn't be if I had not come here 4 years ago. I think I'd be a different person. Maybe not for like the worst, but I don't think I would have grown the same way that I grew while I was here. So I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Dan. It's just like the like love and environment that your family and just Jeremy and Love Squared and the Katina Ministries like just provide. And like I'm talking about like everybody from like the uncles to Levi to Joey and Sheena.
Yeah, Joey too,
and just like Dan and Nicole, like everybody as soon as I got here was just like, well, welcome to the family. Let's go. And it's just like Dan said, nobody was sitting there like, oh, Teddy, you can't do this, you can't do that. It was just like, all right, we're gonna go together, or we're not going at all. And it I just really felt the love, and I'm really appreciative and just really thankful and grateful for like just your family and the opportunities that you guys provided for me, and just love you guys, man.
Love you, bro. Of course, it's an honor to do life with you guys, and I feel bad it took this long for us to get together for us three for a podcast.
Oh, but we're fine.
Thanks for inviting us, by the way, man.
Yeah, true.
I love doing this.
We'll have to. Hopefully, you guys will be on more shows in the future. But I will end right there. So thank you guys for being here today.
Thank you.
To those of you listening, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back with more episodes soon. Have a great day.